Hi guys. So I haven't been on YouTube for a little bit. That's because I got quite busy working with people before Christmas, which was nice. So I was doing lifestyle, well-being, and exercise with different people. But it just meant I had a break from videos. And actually, if you follow All Silver Clouds Instagram, then I did put some videos out there. So yeah, you could always check out our socials if I go a bit quiet. But basically, yeah, I missed making videos and talking about the different like subjects that I love. So it's January, it's 2022, and we're back. And I hope you've had a good start to the year. I've had a bit of a mixed bag, so I think that's like the case for a lot of people, really. Um, but I've got so many great things going on and so many things I want to get involved in this year. So, always planning and putting my energy into that, even when, times are a bit rough. So, what do I want to say today? Well, I just thought I'd tell you what I'm up to in the next month. Also, I'm wearing all like woolen things today because it's quite cold in London, and I'm really excited because it means that we get to do cold air training. And what I mean by that is when it's really cold outside, I actually like to go and do my exercise outside, and you feel really invigorated by the cold air. But as I'm going to talk about in a minute, I also have Raynaud's, which is a condition which means that it's to do with your circulatory system. And in fact, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but let's just put it this way. If you have Raynaud's and you get cold hands and feet, then it's not always your first instinct to think, let's go training when it's freezing cold outside. And I do think you need to think about it as well, because if you're not going to be doing anything high energy and you live somewhere that's really cold, I mean, I talk to people in Canada and US and it's really cold. If you see me looking over there, I'm actually looking out the window at the weather. So it's dark now, but it's peaceful, like it was raining yesterday. But anyway, so it's not a natural instinct to want to go out in the cold. So, and I think, if you are somewhere really cold, you do have to think about it. But let me think. So let me tell you about the awareness. So what have we got coming up? So it's January, and we've got Blue Monday coming up, which is meant to be, that kind of depressing day where everyone's kind of waiting to get paid, like the following week, and it's cold. And you already know what I think about the cold. Like, I love cold air training. So yeah. I'm not on my usual sofa, so this one, you have to move about a bit sometimes. But yeah, so cold air training. So anyway, Blue Monday. So, it's kind of linked to this kind of like depression. And so we like to take the opportunity at All Silver Clouds to talk about the colour blue, because we're massively artistic and creative and absolutely love the arts. So for us, it's an opportunity to get out our blue pigments and make some artwork. And I think that's a great way to actually tackle those days when you are feeling a bit depressed. Some people get a bit depressed when they don't have money because they like going out and they like doing things. But if you actually get out your blue paints, or you could use that as a day to be artistic and do some painting or drawing or colouring in or anything really, then you'll feel good, undoubtedly. And I'm not biased, even though I love art. But no, I think everyone has that self-expression in them. And some people say to me, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not an arty person. Well, I think they're probably judging themselves in terms of what they feel they can create compared to someone else, and that's not what the art's about. It's about that, that free flow of your thinking, your emotions, all sorts of different, some people aren't emotional about art. Some people like to look at it, explore scientific things through this medium. So anyway. So this year, Blue Monday, I'm going to bring my paintbrush with me. So last year I brought the calligraphy. Like I had my calligraphy pen, I had my calligraphy inks, and the videos on Facebook, and you get to see me like struggling to open ink pots. And it's not because I'm weak, it's not because I hadn't been doing my weights, it's just because they're really hard to open sometimes. Anyway, okay, so what else have we got coming up? So that's January. Okay, so in February, first of all, February is Raynaud's Awareness Month. So, okay, I'll explain a bit more about what Raynaud's is. So it is the circulatory system. And it's really linked to like your body temperature. And for someone with Raynaud's, we will experience body temperature changes that are quite extreme compared to other people. So for example, if I'm sitting watching TV with friends, you know, they can sit and watch TV and you could touch their hand and they feel warm. If I sit still for, you know, really any amount of time, like my hands are starting to get a bit cooler now. Yeah, I can actually, if you touch me, I'm like freezing cold. And so yeah, and it is to do with, you know, the way our circulatory system works. And it means that we have to be quite careful when we go into cold environments, because obviously our hands are going to freeze. So, you know, so I mean, I wear these a lot. You know, sometimes people say, oh, I noticed that you're out in the cold, you've got a jumper on, and then you've got your arms out, and then you've got, you know, these. And it's because I've actually got a really hot core body temperature. But then my extremities are cold. So it means I actually get really cold wrists. And I can be out doing fitness, and even my hands are warm because like my blood is pumping and stuff, so they're quite warm. But my wrists will feel like they're going to snap. And so I do tend to wear these quite a lot. And it is something that we do need to think about, because obviously if you do, you know, go into cold environments, you have to, because also obviously when you go cold, it, you know, it can be stiff and it can be a bit achy, you know, like yeah, you know, it's not like you just get really cold and you don't notice it. Like you do, I'm always doing this, and when I'm sitting around watching TV, I'm always doing this. I do it without thinking. I just find myself sitting there doing that. And if you're someone who's quite anxious, that can actually slow your rhythm down a bit. But I also think that I do it personally because of my circulation. So, you know, I've either got red hands or like blue hands. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Raynaud's a bit in the month. And, you know, really, I kind of raise awareness about, amongst other people with Raynaud's, about some of the things that we can do to keep ourselves warm and keep ourselves healthy as well. So, you know, so instead of maybe buying warmers for our hands, we could actually do some exercise or an activity that gives us the same effect. And so we've got a bit more control over, you know, if we don't have hand warmers, what are we going to do, kind of thing. So yeah, but I think even if you don't have Raynaud's, it's a really cold time of year, so it would be quite nice. You know, I'm going to be doing some fitness outdoors, so even if you don't have it, it's still a time when you get really cold. So this will still help anyone really. And what else am I doing? So okay, so February as well. So this is a bit, you know, this is a sensitive subject I'm going to be talking about in February. So the 21st to the 27th, I believe, is National Eating Disorders Awareness Week. And, you know, this is a really important thing for me to talk about. It's also going to be very challenging, you know, because we all have our relationships with food and self-esteem and the way we feel about our body image, the way we feel about ourselves, and also our mental health as well, and, you know, how we perceive ourselves and how realistic it is to how other people perceive us. So I'm not talking about perceptions as in what type of person they think you are, but if you took a group of people and they all said, you know, okay, here's an interesting one, and this happens with me all the time. Okay, so if you take a range of people who have different body weights and you ask certain people to put themselves within that range, they will put themselves in a range where, like, for example, if you're talking about someone who has complexities about being slim and keeping themselves to a lower weight, you will find them putting themselves amongst people who are quite curvaceous, quite, healthy. And it's because their perception is that, that their body for them is that they feel larger, and it might not be overall, it might be certain parts that they're picking out, in terms of your body, like, but the point is their perception is that they're bigger than they are. And with some people, they go through a journey of not only becoming slim, but then becoming slightly overweight. And so it's this kind of process of going back and forth, but not finding that healthy middle. And that's generally due to I'm going to be talking about body dysmorphia. So this dysmorphic kind of veil that they have over, what other people see, what you see in photographs, videos, etc. It is going to be a very difficult kind of subject to talk about, because obviously I have my own personal journey with body dysmorphia, which I've never talked about. I didn't tell anybody about. So I've only ever told one person. So and that's my therapist. So it's going to be a really tough subject to talk about, and I'm not going to be talking about it too personally, to be honest. And people get upset with people and they get annoyed with people for not talking about it, really openly. But I think one of the key things that you have to remember is that people who have body dysmorphia, people who go through conditions such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia, people who go through conditions where they've, they go to the point of obesity. These are all coming from like places of self-esteem, potentially trauma, depending on how severe it is to the person. Well, not even how severe, I mean, it's how it kind of shapes that person. But these are coming from really deep emotional places. And, some of in fact, my experience from the people that I've met, that I've read about, that I've listened to, that I know, my own journey, is that it starts really young. I mean, it starts when you're a child. So what you see on the screen where someone has, a body dysmorphic related condition, such as anorexia nervosa, such as weight being out of control in terms of managing it to keep it healthy. The other way, people who are overweight, these are symptoms and results of coping mechanisms that people have used to deal with something very complex, which has started at a young age. So when people say, just do this, just do that, this is how we fix it, why don't you do this, why don't you act like that, why aren't you more open about it, why don't you tell us everything about it? And it's like, this is something that comes from a place of complexity, secrecy, and it's very private and personal. And, so it's going to be a difficult subject to talk about, but I think it's really important. And I'm actually going to be looking at a couple of YouTubers as well, who fall on either side of the kind of, the way that our bodies can change due to our, to how we're dealing with other things. So I'm going to be looking at someone who, who has not talked about what her eating disorder is, but she has said that she has got an eating disorder. And it's very clear when you watch her that you can see how that's kind of playing out. The longer you watch someone, you can actually start to see how they change over an amount of time. So, and I think, again, with the other person that I'm going to be looking at, who's actually overweight and he's getting to a point where it's dangerous. These are both people who get such an outpouring of concern. And, I want to in some way talk about that, because then you also bring in this level or this complexity or this layer, or however you want to call it, of illness. And should people with an illness be allowed to be on YouTube or making videos and putting them out to the world? And that raises a really complex issue for me on on a couple of levels. I mean, I will say now, I've had the feedback from someone that, you know, you're not well, you've got PTSD, you shouldn't be making videos, you need to get well, then you can go and talk to people about it. And what I have said to them, you know, a few times is that while I have PTSD, one, I acknowledge it. Two, I talk about the symptoms and I point out the symptoms sometimes. So when you see, you know, if you're someone that's watched a few of my videos, and there was a funny one I was thinking about earlier where I'd done a 21-day challenge and I was celebrating it on the screen, and I've got this confetti, so from my craft collection, and I was going to throw it in the air and celebrate, which I did. I threw it in the air to celebrate, and I did that because another symptom is hypersensitivity, so I can't do, you know, like the popper, the sound, or so I literally, this is a compromise, but a nice one. I got the confetti, I threw it in the air, and immediately I was like this, and yeah, immediately I literally just crouched into defensive mode. Hang on a second, I think my camera is just it's lost me. It can't find me anymore. You can't watch me all blurry. If it doesn't find me, oh, there we go, it's found me again. That's annoying. So I can't make sudden movements. Okay, well, in the other video I did, but I wasn't using my camera. And it was just the fact that even though I knew it was coming, I still had this defense like pose. And that's a symptom of my PTSD. And I will say that to people and say that, you know, and I know that that's part of my disorder. And it's something I'm working on. And it's not that I'm sitting here with kind of, you know, with no insight to what I'm, you know, displaying. But equally, for someone to say to me, you have to be well to be on YouTube, you know, that's a really tricky one, because it's like, I mean, firstly, I come to YouTube, I come to any videos that I put out. If I'm talking to you about lifestyle, well-being and fitness as a coach, I'm talking to you as a professional. I'm talking to you someone that works in that area, researches that area, writes about that area, and is certified in that area. But when I'm talking to you about PTSD, for example, I'm not talking to you as a therapist, a counselor, a psychologist. And I'm very clear, I'm talking to you as someone who's got the condition, who's been diagnosed, who's constantly looking for ways to improve my situation, because people think, oh, you've got PTSD, oh, you've got a label for yourself, how great. And I'm like, no, I haven't got a label for myself. I've got a whole heap of symptoms which make my life very challenging. And I'm always working to ease those symptoms and to make things a bit, you know, to integrate myself back into the way I used to be, where I would, you know, go out and I could get on transport and do all sorts of stuff that I haven't done in a long time. And I think that at the end of the day, if someone else has just got PTSD, like diagnosed, then for them to see that I'm a couple of years down the line, and that I can sit here smiling and laughing and, you know, writing and doing things, I think that can be helpful for them in a different way. You know, I'm not telling them what medication to take, but what I am doing is saying, here's some things that might make you feel better. It makes me feel better. And, you know, another person said to me, well, just because you've got PTSD, you don't know other people's situation. And again, it's not about knowing someone else's situation. I'm not talking to people saying, oh, I know what you've been through, this is how it works. What I'm doing is saying, you know what, first and foremost, you know, I'm a fitness instructor and I'm a lifestyle coach. I know about mindset. I know about some of the things that we say to ourselves that keep us in this loop. I also know about the physiology of the body. Okay, so I know about physiology, know how the body works, and I know that every single one of us who is suffering from PTSD symptoms has a nervous system, a respiratory system, a muscular system, and these are all being set off in the same kind of ways. Some of us are getting tics, that's me, that's some other people, you know, can't deal with touch, can't deal with sounds, environment, tone, people shouting, heart going, heart literally going from, regular to like frozen. This is all to do with your nervous system, and it's being triggered by your thoughts, it's being triggered by your experiences, but effectively, on a physiological level, the same stuff is happening to us. And so in that sense, if I work with someone who's got high anxiety, or I work with someone, which is most people, I can't say, oh, I was growing up with you and I know the ins and outs of your story. But what I can see is what's happening to you on a physical level. And I know mentally what's triggering it. And we can work with that. So why then should I not be able to make a video? Why should I not be able to have a voice because I'm not cured? I mean, there's a chance that it's going to be a condition that I always have to manage, and I'm always going to be aware of it now as well. So, when it first happened, I didn't know what I was dealing with, and now I'm very comfortable knowing to a high degree what's going on, how to manage it, and also who we should be listening to, and the kind of people who are putting out really amazing research into this area, which is a new area that's developing, the area of trauma. So that's why when we go into body dysmorphia, and some people's idea is, well, you've just got to eat, or you've just got to stop eating, and they're not looking at the trauma. And trauma is a new area, so the more it develops, the more we can start to look at someone with an eating disorder, whichever way they fall. And actually quite a few people, there are people who deal with anorexia, and they may not have it to the degree that it takes over other people's lives, so they manage to get back into a balance, and then they go the other way. And then when they try to get back into balance, not, reducing their diet, they fall back into their pattern of undereating. So it's a very complex, set of routines that are really ingrained. And people deserve to have a voice. If you're not looking to hear about, or not, if the people that send certain comments are not looking to hear about the opinion of someone who lives with it and breathes it, and all that they want to hear is research, statistics, and doctors and medical reports, that's absolutely fine. But that's where you need to go and look for your content. And I think also you have to be aware that these people get it wrong. I've been only this year told that I needed to go through a certain type of therapy, which both I and that other person knew wouldn't work, so that I could then get discharged from that therapy to then be referred to the therapy that I do need. And I turned around and I said to them, no way. I'm not going to be traumatized or re-traumatized by you to go through a certain type of therapy, which we both know is not going to work and is not specific to what I have, which is PTSD. We all know that PTSD, we need to be looking at EMDR therapies. We need to be looking at, people talk about CBT. Well, good luck to you if all you're going to do is CBT. It might work, it might be effective. But I mean, for a lot of us who've got these, really physical symptoms, we need that EMDR, like that level of body mind kind of sorting through things. And I just think, like, to tell me, and this, I'm not going to talk about who it is, etc., because they're now going to help me, and they've actually referred me for the EMDR without having to do all of the other stuff. But the fact that they didn't even suggest that to me, and if I wasn't someone that raised awareness about the condition and was involved in different groups, which means that I know about the latest therapies that are coming out, and getting involved with people who are really have their finger on the pulse with this stuff, then I would have subjected myself to being re-traumatized with therapy I didn't need to eventually get to the thing I did need. It was insane. But after a lot of me, like, really having to defend myself and not taking no for an answer, I got a no, and then I phoned back and I was like, no, it's not a no. And in the end, they're like, right, okay, we've got a psychologist that can see you. I'm like, right, You know, I didn't phone in for you to like just turn me away because of your protocol. Like if someone who has got to a point with a serious condition like PTSD is calling you because they want to help themselves and re-socialize themselves, then don't let them back out into the ocean. You know, do something about it. People are very quick to turn you away, and I just think at the end of the day, me even saying this is useful to someone who's going through that process and who's getting those no's, or you didn't follow protocol, or like it's, no way. You don't follow protocol, you've got mental illness, you've got a lot of shit on your plate, that's why. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, so I've kind of really moved away from what I was talking about with awareness, but I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I am going to be talking about some people who are literally being, they're trying to deplatform them on social media. And while their behavior might seem, it is a very challenging area to talk about, and I think there's parts of what they do that you might have an opinion on, but in terms of how they bring some form of conversation around eating disorders and the spectrum of eating disorders, I think that's something that we can talk about, and that's useful. And I don't like the way that they're targeted as individuals online. You're ill, you're ill, you're ill. It's like, okay, do you think that's helping them? No. Like, if you've got a body dysmorphic issue, someone going to you, you've got a problem, it's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyway, whatever, we'll be talking about it in March, and so I'll definitely, be really going into it. And I will actually be bringing some I'll be talking about different organizations that are really helpful, that you can go and look at their resources. And if you are in a serious way, and you realize that you're having that, you're coming to terms with that, then you can look for help or seek help. I think what's really challenging with body dysmorphia is that you're not looking for help, you're looking to keep it quiet. What you're doing is the way you're coping, and it's other people that are trying to stop you using that as a coping mechanism. So it's a really challenging kind of journey. And one thing I'd say for myself is that fitness and exercise has been, it came at a good time, but it didn't actually come to me as a way to deal with body dysmorphia. It came to me as a way to deal with PTSD. So you know what I mean? So that area, when it comes to food and people's relationship with it, and more so their relationship with their self-esteem, if food was just energy and it didn't affect self-esteem, and people didn't judge you by your size and your health, with your visible health, then it's like, it wouldn't even be a thing. It's the fact that it is a form of judgment which feeds into self-esteem, that it's such a challenging area. Okay, well, anyway, so that's awareness. So obviously we'll talk about that more. And otherwise, I'm really excited to be doing some decluttering and organizing commentary videos. And yeah, I was talking about doing Kim and Aggie, so I'm really looking forward to that, because they're all about, like, they deal with, they say to people, right, you've got to declutter, but then they're all about tidying and making the house, literally they go into a house which you literally think, there's no hope. And when they do the tour, when everything's clean and fresh, you're like, have you put in new appliances? Have you literally like redecorated? And it's like, no, we just cleaned. Oh no, my camera, I can't handle me moving. Okay, so yeah, so I'm actually quite warm and quite lively, but yeah, like so I look forward to talking about them. And then also I'm going to be talking about hoarding and hoarders, and there's a particular show I'm going to be looking at called Hoarders. It's an American show, and so that's going to be fascinating. And again, this is just another, it's almost like another form of body dysmorphia, in the sense of there's coping mechanisms involved when people become hoarders, which come from a young age, and they come from, it's not the stuff. It's never really the stuff, it's other things. So I really look forward to talking about that as well, and looking at that, and hopefully I'll have good quality connection. But I always think, you know what, we're having the discussion. I don't know why, but sometimes my connection can't handle when I broadcast a video. It kind of plays it in this kind of disjointed way. But hopefully we are going to get, some consistent video playing. All right, I think that's all I really have to say. But what I would like to say is that I hope you're having a good start to the year, and it's up and down, it's bumpy, that's what makes the good times really good, because it's like, wow. So just keep out what you're doing. We've got our Also Clouds blog out at the moment, that's talking about what your goals are for the year and how you can keep them, how you can keep on task. So some of the ideas of keeping yourself accountable. Obviously, if that's something you struggle with, or you've really, you're dealing with something which requires support, then I also talk about coaching and what it's like to be what it's like for me as a coach, some of the things that I do in my day-to-day life. And so but I think it's good advice for everyone. And then if you want that extra support, then obviously we've got the options to support people with things like their lifestyle and their fitness journey. So so the blog, and we've also got a decluttering and organizing blog coming out really soon, actually in the next kind of couple of weeks. So that will tie in quite nicely with our talking about Kim Aggie and hoarders. So and I'm going to be talking about holistic coaching, which is what we do at All Silver Clouds. And sometimes people say to me, talk about, what is holistic? And holistic is actually quite personal to each coach in terms of how they encompass it. But essentially what we're all doing is engaging body and mind. So, not just focusing on the body or just focusing on thinking, but, incorporating both, and finding balance through acknowledging both and getting a nice rhythm, as opposed to overthinking and not moving, or moving and bottling things up, kind of. Anyway. Okay, so we've got things coming up, and then I'm going to be doing workshops. So it's exciting. And I think I'll leave it there, though. I've been talking for ages. But do join us for awareness as well, because as always, obviously, sometimes it gets a bit emotional and stuff. But I think also I always keep like a lightheartedness to it as well. I don't go into anything scary or too intense. And so I always like to finish things with advice or tips or a positive note. And it's not because positivity is a false economy, it's because it's a mindset that is fruitful, that if you have a positive mindset, and if you overcome challenges and negativities quickly, if you can bounce back, if you can process them and not have them hold you back, then actually the most fruitful mindset you can have is that of the positive mindset. So there you go. I'm leaving it on a positive mindset. That's what we need. And that is where you find your rewards in other ways. If you're in a negative mindset, you might miss the good things, and you might miss the things that you would actually be really grateful for when they're not there. So positives. All right, guys, I look forward to seeing you soon, like really soon. And take care of yourselves. Bye.